What's happening, man? I got a couple things I want to talk about. I posted about one of them. Kind of a polarizing figure. Actually, all three figures are polarizing, but, you know, all that shit is inconsequential to me unless I see some, like, well, only with one of them. I would need to see, like, real evidence of what was alleged. Alex Jones just said the wrong word when he was, you know, bringing to light that there are staged tragedies that have many functions within our, you know, prison. And then Tucker Carlson. Why do people not like Tucker Carlson? So he was on Fox News, but they write that shit for those people. What I would advise if you like have a problem with Tucker Carlson, and this is me saying this like on the fly. I definitely didn't watch all of Tucker Carlson's fucking sizzle reel before coming on here. But if you have a problem with Tucker Carlson, go look at the stuff he's saying right now. I'll just say it like that, because honestly, everyone can change. Everyone can have an epiphany, like, oh fuck, I'm being used as a tool. Because that's my belief. My belief is that dude had been in that industry. You know, what do you call that? The private sector of that industry. I don't know. The non-ownership sector. You know, working for other people who have advertisers. Canaanite. My bad. Advertisers that want you to say certain shit. They want you to sow seeds of anger and mistrust and war and all kinds of goofy shit. That dude didn't write his own stuff. I mean, I think that was one of the stories was having to do with one of his writers. Look at the stuff he says now. Dude's talking all kinds of shit. He's talking about Tartaria, fucking saying how horrifying whatever information he saw on aliens was. Said he doesn't even know how to tell anybody, which I believe that, because if you go with the narrative that's given by, you know, the people who are doing all this shit to everybody, that's dumb. That's a dumb thing to do. So for him to say, like, when someone finally told me, you know, what's going on with all that shit, and I saw for myself, he was like, I couldn't tell anyone. He said he couldn't tell his wife. He said he saw shit that was disgusting and stuff that was horrifying. That sounds about right. I trust that. I don't know. I'm not gonna use the word trust. I believe that. Soft believe. Let's call it I soft believe that. So I'll get into that in a minute. The Alex Jones went on Tucker Carlson's show. I saw Russell Brand kind of, you know, giving his commentary on it. That's what I'm referencing. But that's not the first thing I'm going to talk about. I want to talk about this other thing first because I was just listening to it. So I listened to Aeon Byte, Gnostic Radio. I am not a Gnostic. Was that my last video? Morals and Dogma. Was that my last? Yeah, I think that was. No, it wasn't. It was As a Dad. As a Dad, though. Shout out fucking the Apollo. Shout out the Apollo. Dedicated. So, in my morals and morals and dogma video, I talked about, you know, essentially, like, those that shit was dumb. I'm not gonna get into all that again, but I'm not a Gnostic. I look at everything. If you can't watch this collection of stuff that I am compiling and see that I look at everything. I'm trying to look at everything, bro. Anything that interests me, anything that, and not just stuff that interests me, obviously, that's a part of it, but anything that seems like it fits into what I'm trying to figure out. Anything that seems like it fits into what's necessary to, flush out my theory, because I don't think I'm going to finish it. Like I said, I've said this before, I think I'm just looking for as much understanding as possible. It's like preparation. And I'm sharing that in hopes that other people also prepare. And I believe there are other beings doing the same thing. Jay Dreamers, very similar. Jay Dreamers and I seem very similar. I put up a video sharing some very personal stuff. And I've said before that analytics will make you think that no one's watching your shit all the way through. And I believe that to an extent, but because it's averages. So it'll say average 8 minutes, average 13 minutes, which, not good for your self-esteem. I don't know what to call that. It's not self-esteem, because that doesn't affect my self-esteem. It's discouraging. It's discouraging when you put a lot into research and studying and the thoughts that you share, and you don't hold back as much as maybe other people do. I hold back a little bit, but that's in self-preservation and trying to keep open communication. I'm trying not to get shut down in that bitch. You know what I mean? But so I put out a video that was sharing some very personal shit that's going on currently for me. Didn't really think too much about it. Not sure if it was the best idea, but like I said, I feel drawn to documentation. I don't know what's up with that, but same thing as that throat chakra thing, where I start talking and I just talk, and then afterwards I'll listen to it and be like, what the fuck, but I'm not fighting it. That's one thing I'm very comfortable in. I'm not fighting that stuff. So he left a comment on that video, and very, very encouraging, kind words from this dude, man. I feel a kindred spirit in Jay Dreamers. I call everybody brother, call everybody sister, until you show you are not that, or prove you are not of us, that I like the colloquialism 21 grams. We weigh 21 grams. If you're synthetic or malevolent, or whatever, however you want to look at it, then you're not that. But I say that because sometimes I come across people that I feel even more of a connection to, whether it's the way that they speak or the things that they're passionate about, or it's really all of those things. And it's intuition that makes me feel that way. And I'm usually lately I'm usually not wrong. If I'm real about it. I make attempts because I want us all to be okay. I've made attempts before to kind of link up figuratively, not literally, but figuratively, with other people that were speaking. Didn't go well. Very, very different than what they claimed to be in the in the onset. But you know, we connected on that video. You know, I wanted to, and that was a part of why I did it, because I really feel like my initial feeling was, you know, being alone. Like, I'm going through this alone. No one can see me going through this. No one is here to witness this messed up stuff. And that's happened to me before. All those court dates and you know, the railroading that came from that arrest, the illegal arrest, and the trial, and trying to reach out to the NAACP and all these like just random people that supposedly care about you or care about certain groups. No one gave a shit, dude. No one gave a fuck. And you know, even amongst the things that the many cool, nice, and like comforting things he said in his comment, he had he had and has the same experience. Like, and that's basically what he was saying. It's like, dude, we're like living similar lives, you know, which took my brain to all kinds of places, because, you know, I like theories, I like building theories, thought experiments. I'll just call this one a thought experiment. When I read his like full comment, I was like, bruh, what if, you know, a bunch of things went through my head. Like, people talk about universal consciousness, or the oneness, or the uniform field, or 0 point energy being all of one. And it's like, I don't really resonate with that. And even if it's true, I don't know that I want that. I like individuality, you know? But then when reading his comment, bro, it's like, damn, it almost feels like two sides of the same coin, you know? Very similar situations. And anyway, the comment was very appreciated, and I hope to get to a point where I can, you know, work with that dude at some time. Whether it just be some video shit or some research or whatever, you know. Cause, you know, I'm going through some shit. Seems like he's going through some shit. But more importantly, we're not letting it defeat us. We're not letting it take us back to that point of fear, you know. Oh, I need this to stop. I just want to be comfortable again. Like, if everyone would get that fuck it in their system, that same energy of, you know what, fuck that. Like, you're not going to do this to me in the way that you're hoping. I think we'd be in a much more advantageous position as a, you know, as a group. But we can't make you do shit. All we can do is put out information and hope that it does something for beings out there that are willing to receive it. Anyway, I don't think I'm sending anybody to J Dreamers, but if you don't follow J Dreamers' work, go to YouTube, man. Or even if you're on here, if you're on Instagram, go to his Instagram. Very good work. Very good work. Even better dude. Very much appreciate when, especially just on the level of someone watching a whole video. That's really, really cool, because I do that most of the time. Unless you suck, or unless you're saying dumb shit. Like, I watch whole videos. Hour long, 30 minutes long, 3 hours long. But you know, whatever. I think that is, to me, potentially just another thing that shows like the differences in the beings here. I don't think we're all one thing. I don't think we're all, you know, humans. All this shit, all of it seems fake to me. I think someone that had a bunch of time just built this both physically and you know, the experience also on some Guardians of the Galaxy 3 shit, you know, or some Kang the Conqueror shit. Like, you know, follow the soft disclosure. They're showing you things, and you can look at it and be like, oh, well, that's just a movie, or oh, that's just a TV show. You could look at it like that, or you could look at the many connections between the intelligence agencies in Hollywood, or the government in Hollywood, or, you know, Hollywood shooting the moon landing. Like, there's plenty of shit that should snap you out of that and be like, oh, well, maybe these aren't just movies and TV shows. I really have a problem with digress. Fuck that, dude. It's not digression. What I really have a problem with, I need to stop letting debates and comments and shit stress. It's not even stressing me out. It's just like I get so taken aback by the ignorance and the revelry of ignorance. Like, they revel in it. I'm happy to be in this. Stop trying to help me. Anyway, I'm doing it again right now. So before I get into the Alex Jones stuff, I was watching Aeon Gnostic Radio, Aeon Byte, Gnostic Radio. Sorry, Miguel. And the guest, her name is Ola Walney, I think. I know her name is Ola. Eastern European lady. Very smart. I dug it, man. I'm not even done with it yet, and I'm still choosing to, like, share it. You should go watch it. I don't think it's her first time on the show, but it is 2024, so look for the newest, you know, episode with Ola, O-L-A. She was saying lots of stuff that really resonated with me. That's what I'm doing. It's almost like, what I'm doing is almost like chaos magic. It's almost like what chaos magic is, but with, is information the right word? I guess so, for all intents and purposes, you know, information. So chaos magic, you keep what works, and you don't keep what doesn't work. So it's not one system. You know, some do, I'm not going to go through all the magical systems. It's basically, there's like ceremonial magic, there's different types of magic, and generally, especially if you join an order, orders don't want you to do multiple types of magic most of the time. I think it's probably changed a lot by now, but in the, you know, back in the day, it's like if you were doing ceremonial magic with like OTO or somebody, it was a society. Like, they want you to do what they're doing. They don't want you to stray too much, you know? I don't know who created chaos magic or when it, you know, was birthed, but essentially you take from whatever systems work for you, whatever calls to you, whatever resonates with you, or whatever, and you build your own magic system, right? Which sounds like what everyone should do that wants to do those things, practice magic. I'm doing that with my theory. And I keep saying theory, but it's not just my theory. It's like what I'm building what I choose to believe. I'm building a theory to explain this very weird, fucked up place that we're in. And I'm trying to use as much information as possible so as to be able to dispel, you know, dumb arguments, to disprove or discredit my work. And so it's like 32 degrees outside, so I've got all this mucus in my throat. Apologies. I'm gonna keep doing it though. Can't be helped. Um. So yeah, if something resonates with me just randomly, or if it lines up with, or you know, coincides with something else that I've made a fixture in my, you know, whatever you want to call it. I just use the word theory because I am building a theory, but it also applies to me personally, my life. Um, but only when I say it does. Uh, a lot of the things that she was saying really fit and are corroborated by other beings that I have a respect for and learn from, who teach me. And her position, I didn't hear her say she was a Gnostic, but she definitely had lots of Gnostic themes in her assertions. A lot of it had to do with, you know, Demiurge Archon framework. I really don't see how that can be denied. When you, the more stuff you find, the more it's like, yeah, okay, so this has some credence. One of the things that really made me want to say something though about the episode was that she started talking about the moon, and how that is a false, you know, construct. And by that, she didn't mean like the moon is fake. She meant like the moon is part of the problem. The moon is part of this thing that has been inflicted, that has been imposed, and contributed to us forgetting who and what we are capable of. You know, all of the things that are important to us being able to use our full potential and to be free to exist and be who we want to be and who we are. The moon is a part of that in her assertions and in mine as well. It's when you start to get into specifics with a lot of these things that it becomes more vague, because I don't make assertions that I can't show corroboration or evidence for. Even if sometimes circumstantial, I have a few things that I stick by that some would call circumstantial, you know, corroboration. But you know, you have to use, if my better judgment or intuition is different from yours, that's just what life is. So, you know, I think too many people think that I'm trying to prove something directly to them, which is very weird. It either resonates with you or it doesn't. Anyway, so she backed up much of what she said with research, with citing of you know, other beings or text or what have you. And you know, another theme that she mentioned was that things are lining up the way that they should, but the reason that it's taking longer for things to correct themselves or to correct itself is because the energy of women is one of the bigger targets. And by that, it's not to say that it's the women's fault. It's to say that, you know, the archons, the gods, you know, those that have the capability to manipulate and manage this prison, know that those are that's our power source. Those are our most regarded and powerful family members. And I don't mean like your immediate family. I mean like our real family, our actual family. All of us. We are one family, in my opinion. I think I'm starting to kind of think there should be a different word for your, like, and not just a different word, like a different association with your immediate family, like your birth family. Because what I speak about fairly often is like a different, more intimate kind of family, both on a spiritual, like metaphysical level, but also physically. Blood type was a big epiphany for me. There's something to blood type. The people that have the same blood type, the fact that you can share your genetic your bodily material with those people. I don't like the narrative that is, or the answer that we've been imprinted with for why that is. In fact, I don't. If you ask most people, why do you think it is that there are people that have the same blood type, they won't have an answer. I don't think many people think on that, other than the people that want you to believe a specific answer. But I'm thinking on it, so, and I'm gonna look for and build that into my theory, because I think there's something important to that. But she was talking about how the feminine energy, the feminine, women of the realm are in a bad way because they are being attacked, consistently. And one of the points that she made that I liked was, people think when you say that, you're saying like, past 10, 20 years, or even to say, like, to go back to the feminist movement, which was created, and it was created and perpetuated by the Alphabet Boys. Just like the hippie movement, just like the Black Panther movement. These were sponsored movements, sponsored shows, meant to, almost like reverse psychology society. And it, for the most part, it worked. I won't even say it just worked. I don't see where it didn't work. The Back to Africa movement, like, these are things that were programs. These were, for all intents and purposes, federally funded and initiated programs to do things. And so, she said this goes back thousands of years. And you know how I feel about time. I don't really recognize time in that way, but I got her point. I can apply her point to my own findings, my own beliefs. I don't know that this is more than a few hundred years old. At least this iteration. I think that it's just as likely that if you were to go back 300-400 years, you would see Tartaria and Lemuria and possibly Atlantis. Just for the context, look at videos from the 1800s. People were on levitation sleighs. The technology was wild, and it's been suppressed. The documentation of these technologies that we had, and the purposes for things like cathedrals, churches, they were healing centers. There was a mass I keep wanting to say destruction. That's not the right word. Let's call it decommission, because I can't remember the word I want to use. There was a mass decommission of bells. Like the Liberty Bell, like those types of bells, church bells. What is everyone discussing right now? Vibration, right? Frequency, right? Frequencies, I keep saying it, I've said it in a bunch of videos, frequencies can do things that people are just now starting to talk about. And then when I used to bring this up, people would just look at me like I was nuts. Like, did you know sound can start a fire? Did you know sound can freeze the water that you're drinking? Did you know that sound can boil the blood in your body? Like, frequency is all. We are frequency. So when you find the right, you know, balance, you can do all kinds of shit. Probably unfathomable shit. Light, also frequency. People are starting to heal themselves and others with light and sound. People are doing red light therapy. People are doing sound therapy, sound bowls, all kinds of stuff. And these things that we're seeing now are just the beginning of what we were able and capable of doing. Able to do and capable of doing. Why do you think they destroyed all those bells? Hundreds of thousands of bells. I saw a video recently talking about how we don't use certain like if you find an old enough fireplace, it used a completely different technology, and it not only heated your home, but it was used as like the focal center and almost like the entrance point for ether energy, like almost like plasma energy. And he showed, how it worked and how you maintained it. And sidebar, I saw people kind of like, what the fuck, but I think those were bots. I'm trying not to be that person that calls every comment a bot, but like, I think there are a lot of them, and I think they're manipulating us on an extremely high level, like a lot. Maybe I'll talk about that at the end. I don't want to digress too hard, but I've talked about that too. Most of y'all are fighting with, or most of the interactions you're having on these apps are AI. I don't remember what that post said, but it's a cool picture. Anyway, frequency can do many, many, many things. And so we're almost like rediscovering the technologies that are not old. They're not. Look at some of these buildings that they took over. Do they seem like they're super old and decrepit? Does it seem like they did a whole lot of work, like establishing or revamping them, remodeling? Because, to be honest, you can go back to photographs of the World's Fair and see that it doesn't make sense, the explanations that were given. Not to parrot a bunch of other people, but you see people on horse and buggy, and there's like gigantic, just monoliths. If polylith is a word, there were fucking the difference between what the beings were doing and their surroundings do not match. You're driving around a horse and buggy, and you want me to believe that you built a Roman Colosseum level building? It makes zero sense. And these are the things that I say things to try to doesn't that snap you out of it a little bit? Like, to see dusty, dirty niggas riding around in horse and buggy next to these beautiful, gigantic golden statues, very well crafted statues, and gigantic buildings made of marble and other precious stones. Does that make sense to you? And so once you take that into account, why does it have to go back thousands of years to make sense of the fall of Tartaria and the conquering of Lemuria and the fall of Atlantis. Like, these things didn't have to be that long ago. And I don't believe they were. The evidence doesn't make sense. Especially if you take into account the delusions and yugas, like, it doesn't, it makes more sense that we have not been told the truth about history. And not just that we haven't been told the truth, but it's been vastly manipulated. If one king, just because he wanted to rule in a specific year, added 300 years to history, not just his country's history, all of it, he added 300 years to history. That's one person. What do you think other people have been doing? You think he's the only one that had that kind of hubris? Because I don't. And then you take into account the contextual evidence that you have around you. There's a bridge in my town right now that looks like some Tartarian shit. You know, go look at your downtown architecture, and you can see, most of the time, you can see very specific and pronounced differences between modern architecture and, you know, let's call it prehistoric architecture, or realist history architecture. I don't know what to call it. It's not the same. It's just not the same. Doesn't last the same. Not built the same. You can't expect it to do as many things. There's a lot of harmonizations and lineups with the stars, like all kinds of shit. And, you know, modern architecture generally doesn't do any of that stuff unless you have like a bunch of money and you're artistic, or you're, you know, whoever builds your house is artistic. Anyway, so she's saying these things that are really resonating with me. You know, the moon being a construct. She's pleading with women to like stop associating themselves with this tool that was brought here to subvert and subjugate us. And it really, it resonated as truth for me, but also at the same time it corroborated something that I've had an intuition about for, I mean, all of my existence. Not only is worshiping something outside of yourself a scheme of said archons, or whatever you want to call them, the gods, whatever you want to call them, but things like astrology, everything, they designed everything. If you decide, you know what, that's not cool anymore, I don't like that, I'm no longer you know, Muslim, they make it to where there are other it's like walking out of a casino. When you finally, I don't gamble, I don't know shit about casinos, maybe this is a bad example. No, it's not, it's a good example. When you finally, if you like to do the hand crank machines, let's say you finally decide, you know what, I've been doing this for too long, I need to fucking get up, I need to get out of here, I've been here too long, losing too much money. As you're walking out, it's designed, unless you're sitting right by the door, to have all these other machines calling to you. People might, you know, offer you a free drink because all the drinks are free. Somebody says, you know, whatever. It's very much like that, in my opinion, from what I've found in my studies and research. When you leave one faith system or one set of beliefs that have to do with dogma or Abrahamic faith, this construct, this simulation is designed to try to get you to come back around, because they're all the same. It's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. It's all the same deities, and we call them deities, but we are the deities. They are something else. We are the deities. They are something else. And it's when you think about the term deity, or the the things that you apply to the term deity, it makes you think all powerful, or unable to be tricked, unable to lose, unable to you know be taken advantage of. But that also doesn't match. I go into that more on my first documentation video, which the numbers of those have changed. So if you've watched any of them, the last one is now the first one, because that's the best one. It's the best one, and I do the least amount of this, of digression. They're all the same. All the deities, the extraterrestrial, interdimensional beings, all these names we come up for them, angels, demons, they're all the same. All the same shit. It's all designed to make sure that you don't stop giving them your power, giving them your energy, giving them your worship, giving them your loosh. This is a farm. They are farming us. They are using us for everything. There's a... I like to use these things as examples, but I do realize how a person who just can't wrap their head around these things would be like, why the fuck are you using Rick and Morty to make a point? Doesn't matter, though. Not for you, I guess. There's an episode of Rick and Morty where Rick's, I think his battery, right? His car battery dies. And Morty finds out that Rick's car battery is a whole universe of beings, or a planet. I think it's a universe, though. It's a whole planet of beings that think that they're living life like a regular life. And they do this thing in their homes that they don't, it's not weird to them, but it's almost like it's like a treadmill. Let's just call it a treadmill. But it's like a stepper, though, almost. That is what powers Rick's car. The act of them stepping on the stepper. I think they even thought it was worship. I think they even thought it was worshiping Rick. I can't remember. Actually, I think he was an alien. He told them he was an alien. I can't remember the specifics, but basically, that fucking episode is this. That's what is happening here. Except the main change is that those beings in that episode were not as special as we are. Again, we are the deities. They are something else. And I say that, kind of all-encompassing, because, again, I still think that there are different beings here. It's a shit show. It's a shit show, and there's a lot to try to, decode and figure out. And it's not to say that we need to figure out who everybody is so we can make everybody else leave, or so we can kill the ones that aren't us. That's not our energy. That's not even you speaking when you think shit like that. I'm not going to say it's not your thoughts. I don't like it when people say, oh, that's not even your thought. That's someone giving you that. I don't like that. It is your thought, but it's frequency manipulation. It's, even from the moon, it's still frequency. I'll just leave it at that. It's frequency manipulation. There are levels to it, like there's HAARP, then there's the moon, then there's Saturn. There is a very intricate network of manipulation that we are all not only used to, we are trained from birth to like it and defend it. That is a big part of what my research is currently. So when she let out the concept and her frustration and instructions for women to stop, attaching their energy to the moon or using the moon in their work, whatever their work is. Essentially just stop using the moon. Then things would start to progress much quicker. And that really resonated with me fully. Not just the divine feminine part, but the moon. Like, if there are influencers and people that make content, I will call it content for them, and because they do astrology, they don't want to hear their thing being corrected. They don't want to hear you say, oh, well, you're doing astrology, but the whole system that you're using is faulty because you've included the moon. They don't want to hear that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for them. But to take that a step further, when I say that everything is designed to where you finally say, I'm not Muslim anymore, I'm not Christian anymore, whatever religion you want to put in that place, and then you go to something like, say, astrology or demonology, or demonolatry, not demonology. Demonology is like studying it from a Catholic perspective. Demonolatry, you are just trading one thing for another thing every time. Doesn't matter if it seems like you're not trading it out, you are. Astrology, all of those celestial bodies also have a deity's name, a bunch of deities, really, a bunch of, gods, archons. And then they associate it with other things, like that you're also so attached to that you can't hear someone update, accurate information on it, like Venus, Inanna, that is Lucifer, that is the light bringer, that is a specific celestial being, a star. And beings aren't realizing in the moment, like, oh, I'm attached to a deity again. They're practicing this new thing, but you're still worshiping something, that you shouldn't be. I'm not going to say outside. I don't know if I consider self-deification self-worship, and I don't know how I feel about using that specific word. I think it's more specifically self-love than self-worship. People don't like when you say that, but it's whatever, bruh. So she's pleading with them to stop utilizing the moon in their systems, and she's giving these reasons and talking about how these things have been subverted and we see them as benign or not a big deal. Like, the moon supposedly pulls on the tides, not just of the waters below, but within our body, and it does things to you, and that's where you get lunacy, right? You become a lunatic. That is moon energy. That is whatever is being, showered down on us from that thing. And if, more beings were to talk about stuff like this and things that could help to bring awareness to that, serious awareness, not just hearing it and being like, oh, that dude's crazy, or oh, that chick's crazy, it would make a tangible difference. She talked about a prophecy that happened in like 1208 or something like that, and whoever it was being executed, and said that the Cathars would see, or wait, was it that? Basically said the apocalypse was going to start in 808 years or something like that. Whatever the math is to end up at 2024 is what she said. And if you don't consider time at all, or if you don't consider time the way that it's, pushed, utilized, imposed, you get 2017, and the frequency in which, I don't want to use the word frequency, that's not the right word, the speed in which the apocalypse would be happening. Most people want to say that, oh, it hasn't happened, and you're saying it started in 2017, so obviously you're wrong or it's fake. Time really messed us up. The concept of time, the agreement to use time, really messed up our perspective on a lot of things. Because some things happen fast, some things happen slow, some things happen in a linear line, some things happen in a roller coaster. Like, it's not too difficult to see that things are gradually changing. Whether you see it as a positive or as a negative depends on, whatever it is you're considering. I won't say that this time right now is apocalypse, literally, but that did resonate with me in that I have also seen a gradual change in things. And oddly enough, that's the year that I got out and things felt so foreign to me. I remember thinking to myself, this doesn't feel the same. And I did at that time and still continue to kind of ascribe that to change in matrix stuff or whatever I end up coming to, I'll share it at that point. But 2017 did feel like a very pivotal year for me and my experience. And so to hear that really was cool. What else did she say? The moon, feminine energy. I really feel like she deserves a spotlight, and I think I might post a picture of the thumbnail or something, so to make it at least easier to look up the name of the show, or maybe her own name. Ola Warney? I can't remember the last name. I'll post it. I really think that the rest of that episode is going to be worth listening to, but I can't remember if there was something else that she talked about specifically. At where I had gotten to in the video. I don't think so. So I'm going to move on to Alex Jones. Alex Jones went on the Tucker Carlson show, and they're having, this is just a clip. I'm not saying that this is all that was talked about. Russell Brand is doing commentary of a clip that he picked out of whatever they got going on in the moment in this episode. And the focus of the exchange is Carlson's like, dude, how are you doing this? How are you, so seemingly magically predicting these things? Like, how are you predicting these things like this? And he kind of says, hey, I'm not predicting stuff, but at the same time he doesn't. He pays attention. He reads white papers. He reads peer-reviewed studies. He reads, PubMed. He reads the other publication resources. Like, if you've ever watched that dude's show, especially back in the day, like, he had papers all over his desk at all times. He had papers all over his desk at all times, and he has a really crazy memory, I will say that. I'm not good with that. That's why I don't really do the notes thing. I try my best to pregame and then I go off the dome. But he's asking him, like, how do you remember all of this shit? Or not how you remember. How do you predict all this shit? And he basically just says, dude, I'm constantly paying attention. And I felt that shit in my bones, because that's the only way for me is to continuously pay attention. Otherwise, I just don't feel like you'll be able to keep up. You won't be able to keep up. When someone starts talking about these things, you think that you're the clever one by being like, oh, you're nuts, you're crazy. The reality is you are ignorant to a thing, and this other person is trying to, like, you know, game you up and let you know some shit, and you're like, oh, okay, I'll see you tomorrow, you know, or whoever it is, not a coworker, but he pays attention and he reads and he studies and he retains. That's a big part of it too. He really does seem to retain a lot of information just off the dome. So the next thing he says to him is, he's talking about some of the other stuff that he's predicted and how he predicted it. And he's like, lately I've been studying, I've been reading stuff about a very specific situation. And he talks about how he found a video. I don't know if it was random or not, but he found a video on YouTube, public video on YouTube, of a meeting being held by this group, this collective of top scientists called the Mad Scientist Group. This is what he said. I don't know if that's actually what they call themselves, but probably so, because they're fucking dorks. College dorks. And he said these beings are in this meeting talking about the craziest, most messed up stuff, like talking about transhumanism agenda and how their transhumanism agenda is well on the way and almost perfected and so on and so on. And then he talks about how they're talking about smart dust. And smart dust is one of the most annoying topics to me, because it's one of the ones where even if it's right in a person's face, they still won't know. They won't know unless they're really, really, really looking for it, and they won't really be looking for it until it affects them directly. That's for most people. So, I won't say synonymous. I was going to say these things are synonymous, but they're definitely attached to each other. Smart dust, nanobots, nanotechnology, which they just put out an article. I did a screenshot of it. They put out an article talking about how, it's revolutionizing medicine, and they're going to be able to make the pharmaceutical that you need within your body and all this other just stuff that no one's asking for. Nobody wants that. I don't want you to make shit in my body, nigga. What the fuck? I don't want the medicine from outside my body. It's all poison. You're nuts. But it's hard enough to get anyone to entertain these things. You can show them article after article. My mom's like this. Anytime, I don't even talk to my mom about stuff like this anymore, because, I can show her the things and she'll still just say some weird stuff back, like, I don't think it's true. And then just keep it pushing. It's some of the weirdest shit I've ever seen. And I keep trying to figure out if she was always like that, or if this is like a new development. Anyway, so smart dust, I first came across when I feel like it was a video, and this is before all the TikTok clip videos and all this shit. There was a video from the UK. It was from the UK, and the video was literally about smart dust. It wasn't like a gotcha, like catching you doing this messed up thing. They were talking about it openly and showing video of, you know, just clouds. It looked like fog. It looked like fog, but when they zoomed in on it, you could see that it was some other like material type stuff, like fibrous type stuff. And that was my kind of first introduction to smart dust. And as time went on, I kept coming across these things, these different things, different topics. You know, black goo, smart dust, programmable graphite, like all these things that I thought were separate. And then as time went on, I started to notice that these things were connecting to each other. And, you know, recently, within the past year or two, I come across, you know, Harold Vella. I come across, you know, some documentation of their patents. Looking through the Alphabet Boys patents is the best way to find out the shit that they have. Anytime that there's a new report of something, I go look to see if it's already been, like, defined. Like, people are talking about that alien stuff that went on in Miami, and there's a couple of different answers to that. There's blue beam. I commented and said, touch it, or it's blue beam. But it was just a bunch of people saying that they had seen either a demon or a monster, 10 foot tall, demons and monsters scaring the shit out of people. And what the reality of it is that's they just tested that in Peru. I'm not trying to say that bad things didn't happen to some people, but they do bad things to people all the time. They don't care about doing bad. Just because someone got hurt doesn't mean that it's a real, you know, phenomena. It's most likely them testing their own shit on people so that they can use it in the near future for the stuff that they're doing disclosure about now. Grush. Yo, bitch made punt. Yeah, so they did some testing in South America, as they do a lot. If you want to make a delineation between that claim, if you're familiar with the Tuskegee Airmen, you know what they did to those men was terrible, and they kept telling them they had bad blood and they needed to fix their bad blood. They did that same thing in South America, but worse, kind of. I don't know if it was actually worse, but from what it seemed like, they didn't just give them syphilis in South America. It seemed like they just pumped them full of all kinds of shit. And then came up here. I could have it backwards too. It might have been Tuskegee Airmen first, but who cares? Either way, you shouldn't trust your information from the people that are willing to do shit like that. You also should. I'm going to try my best. You should do what you want to do. I'm going to try my best. Anytime I see a thing that seems, you know, catastrophic or, you know, something of that nature, my first thought is either blue beam or it's them doing it. Whether, you know, you want to look at the fact that anything that you find or hear about those that run in those circles and are paid to do the disinformation stuff and the agents of chaos stuff, basically meaning intelligence, it doesn't make any sense to trust that they have your best interest at heart or that they're doing anything to help you or save you or make your life better. None of that makes any sense based on their previous works. Go watch Snowfall. I mean, they have no they have no integrity, because their directive is something different from what people think it is. Like, they're doing what they're supposed to do, but only because what you think they're supposed to do and what they're actually supposed to do is night and day, completely different shit. That's why you can find officers that are, supposedly Satanists or black magic users that look like the Munsters family members. So, I mean, the video in the UK was horrifying, to say the least. To see that shit floating through the air like that was a trip, but there was a disconnection for me. There was like a disconnect. It was like, oh, well, that's not going to happen over here, you know? Don't know why I thought that. I definitely wasn't anywhere close to how advanced I've gotten with all this stuff now. But even then, I don't understand why my brain was like, oh, well, that's not going to happen here, though. I guess it's because I didn't really understand what it was yet. But fast forward to now. Everybody is commenting on these weird cloud structures, these weird cloud behaviors, very obvious frequency and sound manipulation causing different shapes within the so-called clouds. We don't even know if there ever was. Anyway, I always slip back into simulation theory, but that is the point of what I'm saying with this. I'm just setting it up. This nanotechnology can do so much. It's been said it can float on the surface of your eyeball. It can self-replicate. It can build insect fruiting bodies, basically meaning it can build an insect type creature inside of your body, synthetic obviously, or just get into your body and do negative things, which is commonly called Morgellons. People get called all types of names and have their livelihoods like taken away from them, all because they are being tortured by this, weapon. And I say all that to say, I'm watching this clip, I'm watching this interaction between Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson, and he's talking about smart dust. And Tucker Carlson seems like he's always kind of been into this shit because he didn't even break his, concentration. But there are so many people that just, that's not real. Don't talk to me about that. That's not real. Or I don't want that to be real, or whatever it is. And the fact of the matter is, like, look at the clouds. Think about the water supply. Think about the food. Alex Jones even said that, like, oh, that's being put into, they talked about putting it into the food. And these are the people that build these new technologies. So if they're saying they're going to do it, they're going to do it. And he said that as well. Like, he went back and looked at what they were saying they were going to do in the 50s, and it was done by the 70s. What they were saying they were going to get done during the 70s, and it was done by the 90s. Like, and he said it doesn't fail. They get the thing that they're talking about, they get it done. And it's almost as if, like, a part of me is just like, whatever, dude, because I'm tired of this shit. Smart dust, it becomes never ending, where you can't, you can't disassociate from this stuff because it just follows you. It's going to follow you. And this is an instance of that, because I mentioned insect fruiting bodies, and, people are complaining more than usual about pests and their migrating habits, and the fact that they're still operational in freezing temperatures. I was just outside earlier. It was 32 degrees. I'm smoking a cigarette, and I see shit flying in the air, flying around in the air, insects, bugs. It's freezing, it's 32 degrees, but there's shit flying around in the air. And who knows? Maybe it's something that I'm just not aware of because I'm not from this place that I live in right now. But I don't think so. That sounds dumb to me. I think that I'm remembering correctly, and that insects left when it got cold. You didn't see them really anymore, except for maybe some other types of pests in your house. I get why people don't like to look into these things that we talk about, but some of these themes, some of these things that get talked about, it makes me so frustrated because it's like you think that you're staying out of a situation, or like you're kind of like gaming the system but not really participating, mentally. Like, I don't want to hear this, so I'm not going to pay attention to it. But really, it makes it worse. Like, the chemtrail stuff was and still is made fun of, and now you look up at the clouds and it's like most of these cloud formations didn't even exist. No one had ever heard of any of this shit, as we were being taught about clouds. I think there was like 4 or 5 different types of clouds at the time. And even then, I'm really trying to commit to figuring out my theory to hear and see this cloud stuff doesn't make me positive that that's not different from what they've always been, in a way. And I might very well be working at separate theories for all I know. But it's the very same thing that I kind of mentioned earlier, where people don't talk about certain shit because they know. They don't even have to be told. They know that there is risk. There's risk involved to talk about certain things because you could be called crazy. You could, all kinds of negative consequences that shouldn't be there, but they are there. And so I also ended up on evidence suggesting and implying that the smart dust thing was not going to be just one of those things that you hear about and never see again or hear about again. I'm pretty sure we're being like just blanketed with it, like dumped on with it currently. Precipitation in all 3 majors. Water system when you get down to the desert, like Southwest and stuff like that. Food. That's the problem with it, is since no one said, hey, I don't like that you're making machines that small, and then the natural progression of that, no one really paid attention to or cared, and then all of a sudden you have these articles with pictures of nanoparticles that are capable of so many things, way more than the things that they try to like bring your attention to, like ingratiate instead of getting upset. And as I'm thinking all this stuff, when he's talking about the smart dust and whatnot, it starts to make my mind wander in a different direction, because I start thinking about the like fruit bodies and insect stuff. If you haven't seen pictures of some of these things, they exist. Not just the smart dust, But I keep saying insect fruiting bodies. I have one that I took with my microscope. I have a picture that I took with my microscope of an insect fruiting body. And also of the little fibrous, the red and blue fibrous shit. It's not fiction. It's not science fiction. It's very real. More times than not, people have, stuff that they're just not ready to deal with, I guess. But in the same breath, like, when I started to find candida in my research, I didn't like what I saw, but I'm for damn sure not going to shy away from it. I'm now going to look for the stuff that gets rid of candida, because some people are more susceptible and sensitive to it than others. Because most people, it's like toxoplasmosis or toxoplasmia. I forgot what it's called. The cat thing, the cat piss disease. The cat piss disease, where you get cat piss in your brain. That changes you fundamentally on a mental level, but not many people really seem to care about it or talk about it. And it's the same thing here. Like, ignore it until it's done. Which, even with that, kind of makes me feel like that's some interference, like some archonic, well, if it's going to be like that, then you need to do this. I started to think to myself, if you have this thing called Blue Beam, but you need for people to be able to feel and not just see, I'll put it like that. How would you accomplish that? How do you accomplish that in a way that seems more mystical than it actually is? You could pump them full of nanotechnology that is self-replicating and programmable, and make it to where you're basically you dump this shit all over everybody, right? Continuously. Snow, rain, and if that sounds crazy, think back a couple years to all those videos with niggas setting snowballs on fire. Do y'all remember that? You can still do it. It still happens, but they were setting snow on fire. I did it. Make a ball of whatever that was, and for some people it's like a oily ball of ice type thing, but you can set it on fire. Not saying that was the same as this, like, that was nano stuff, but the concept is there, where it's like, we can use those to build more than just an insect fruiting body, because that's almost microscopic. But if they kept building on each other, if they kept replicating and connecting and building on each other, soon after a while you would be able to consider that like a new being, right? It could be a weapon, it could be slave labor, it could be what you use to wipe out the original beings of that place. Like, there's a bunch of possibilities, a bunch of forks in the road there, and it makes it to where you don't just have the blue beam stuff that you can see, you have the things that now can harm you, the things that can physically touch things and take things and leave things and all kinds of stuff. So I'm thinking to myself, like, oh, so then what if all this nano stuff getting dumped on us all the time, what if that's what that's for? And that's why it's been done. That's why they're doing it for so long, because it's not like they're just trying to see one thing built. you are trying to dump enough to where you have the material necessary, the bots necessary to make it seem like a new, like, type of invasion, I guess. But that's not specifically an invasion. A new type of being that is made from, as far as we can tell, technology. Harold Kotz talks about his experiments and experience with black goo, and not just one iteration of black goo. There's also a separate one that I have two videos talking about this actually. He says that in his experience, he's come across an agreeable dark goo and a disagreeable dark goo or black goo. The agreeable one, he says, is from here. It originates here and has much to do with the way that this place works. He says that the other one is disagreeable, and it's not from here. It came here within like an asteroid. And so these things like resonated with me. They made sense, but at the same time though, it was like there a lot of questions came up from that. So it's like did it, and some of it's coming from movies I've seen and shit like Phantoms. If that's the case, then how come the agreeable black goo can't like kind of defend the beings that are well, that might be because we need to not be defended, so I'll take that back, never mind. Anyway, I think I'm gonna consolidate some of my videos. Not necessarily redo them, but like do new ones where I try my best to maybe have some notes and not go off topic as much. Not to say I'm gonna make shorter videos, just the times where I like just randomly start talking about like something that has nothing to do with it whatsoever. A lot of the time when I digress, it's thoughts that are side by side that are intermingling and interlaced type, stuff. Not going to stop doing that. That's necessary for the way my brain works. But to the ranting type shit, I'll stop that to the best of my ability, unless someone bothered me right before that. And so, I mean, there's depictions of black goo in movies and books. There is information about them. Harold Kotz has done like lots of lectures. He does lots of podcasts and stuff like that. It's not all he talks about, but he talks about it extensively. And all these things kind of go together, like black goo, the harp system, the frequencies that are broadcast out from that, heavy metals and how they contribute. That's why there's so much of that in the food and water. It's honestly it's kind of horrifying, because essentially it's this stuff, dust. Think about dust. You can't, if you have a single dust particle, you can't see it. Then imagine that kind of more indestructive and programmable with a little basically set of lights like a cop car. Blue and red lights, depending on how big the fruiting body gets, that is. But for some people, there's just like threads there's weird threads and stuff like that. And there's pictures of all this stuff. Again, I've taken some myself. But to add another element to that, there are people that are complaining about. I'm not the only one that's like, what? Why are there things flying out here and it's 32 degrees? You know, there are other people that are like, man, there's a bunch of flies in my house, or whatever, so on and so on. And I don't think it's a far stretch to be like, oh, I think that has already been going on. It's already been implemented, and there's not too much that can be done about that, because they're not organic, so it's not like synthetics are really going to bother them that much. It's more like it's like nothing. I don't see what you do about that or with that. And to be honest, if I didn't see enough evidence of it, or if I didn't see any official corroboration of it, I'd be like, all right, man, let's take it easy. But the patent exists. There are countless videos, both of the people that are making it and by those people that did it. It's even I've seen some people be like, I can't believe I worked on this project, and now I realize how terrible that was. And it's like, bro, I don't want to hear that from you. I don't want to fucking hear it's too late for all that bullshit, bro. And they always like to argue, well, if it wasn't me, it'd be somebody else. I just wanted to be in there and make sure to make it as safe as possible, blah, 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 blah. Again, I don't want to hear none of that shit from you, man. Like, these are very specific parameters that I don't see how we can navigate. Because it was almost like, in some of these videos, it's like they were dropping threats that didn't present as threats immediately. Like, oh, well, one particle can it can swim across your eye. And to me, that just means, oh, it can make you see shit. It can make you see things. And then later on, it's like, yeah, it can do that. It is pretty nightmarish, and I don't think anybody should drive themselves nuts over it, but also don't ignore the truth. Like, if we were to all kind of say, all right, this is smart dust is where I fucking draw the line, bruh, then we might have things a little bit shifted. Things might be a little bit better, and maybe we can make some crack, But most people are filled with fear, and this specific this specific technology is not really going to help, I don't think. Like, it's being positioned as having positive smart dust, bruh. For all we know, that is already, and I think that this is the case, to be honest. It's not like this is just starting now. There's just people paying attention to it now. That weirdo snow, I think that goes back as far as like 2018. And that's just what I've seen. I was in a POW camp before that, so then I came out and everything was weird. So I have no idea how long different types of weird shit's been getting dumped. But I did find it interesting that they were doing 3-hour-long meetings discussing the success or the progression of this nanobot research. But to me, nanobot research, it's, I think for most people, it's a lot easier if you have personal experience with some shit, or if you have a complete open mind. Those are the two biggest ways to be like able to take in some of this shit. And then, when so many people are talking about a thing and you see articles and all kinds of shit like that, like, you might as well just assume that that's at the very least possible. And the patents are there. Dude did a pretty good job of. He didn't talk about it for too long. I think he kind of scooted over to something else. But to hear someone on a trusted platform talk about a thing, I don't understand how people could still be like, yeah, that's not true. Or I don't understand. I don't have a resolution. I don't have a proposed resolution for that. If that is the scenario, then it's already out here, bruh. It's already out here, and apparently there are more plans for it. And the thing is, like, we're just kind of being victimized at this point. Like, you're not told most of the things that happen to you or to us. They just do it. So, it's concerning. And, there are people that already seem to be suffering through the more crazy, intense parts of it. I mean, it messes people's skin up. It drives them crazy. Because there's like a crawling sensation that goes along with it. Most of the beings within this like little realm don't even try to realize, like, if they have symptoms of a thing. If they have symptoms and they don't really know what the symptoms are from, they either go with an explanation that they've been given, like, for, other times before that, or they just say, oh, well, that's going to go away, or it's just this, or it's just this. But, again, that's how I was led to the Candida situation, which is not as obscure as it was, but doesn't seem like many people are talking about this thing that everyone has. Everyone has that. And I guess I'll call it synthetic technology. Whatever. That stuff, the smart dust stuff, behaves and attaches to certain particles in the body. Yeast and sugar. Which is not, I don't think, by accident. Very addictive, very saturated in the food supply, meaning they put it in stuff that doesn't need to have it. Like, I don't really need you to put sugar in my bread. Think about Subway, dude. Subway got shut down because they're not shut down. Subway was making bread that was basically not even bread. Because it was cake. They said, they said it was cake. They called it cake, but because it had so much sugar in it that they couldn't call it bread anymore. That's crazy. Why is it in the bread at all? But then if you're gonna do goofy shit like that, like you're just gonna load it down to the point that it's a cake now. Why with all the sugar? And I'm saying I have my answer, but you can go find your answer if it doesn't sound right to you, or if you feel like it's leaps or something. But I've done enough research to be convinced that there is at least a connection between the nanobot stuff, the synthetic nanobot stuff, and the Candida stuff. I don't know how to maintain that at all, because to reconcile those two things is fucked up. But it's almost I don't want to say impossible. It's goofy how how little people care about, even just to ask the question, why is there 6 grams of sugar in this one piece of toast that I'm eating? You know, little questions like that should get people going in the direction of, oh fuck, this is an infestation. I'm infested. But everybody is. Everybody has parasites. Everybody has candida, to a degree. I guess it's not a comfortable thing, and that sucks. But whatever, dude. Like, I think that's also gonna be implemented. I just don't know how. I don't know how that would be done. He was basically saying, like, in this 3-hour meeting, they were talking about shit in the future, but we don't know when these plans originated. So maybe that's right now. Who knows? But I think one of the more important things about it is that it's not just conjecture. It's not just like, oh, well, I think it would be cool to see, this paid attention to, but more like no one's going to in a way that is helpful. No one's going to pay attention to this in a way that's helpful. I don't even know if there is one anymore. If anything, that's kind of what I mean. People talk about the cosmic law and all that shit, and I don't believe in that. They're not telling... I guess they are, though. They are telling you that they have... But that's... To say that they're able to go around law with some of the goofy stuff that people, happen to say in response. Like, oh, well, the cosmic will is going to get at them because they're wrong. It's like, why did they let them do it in the first place? Why is it in a place where there's, I don't know. That tends to not make sense to me, but I have trouble making connections between the black goo itself and the nano stuff. I don't know why they're grouped together so often. Maybe it's a Eastern European. No, I'm playing. I don't know. I think even the agreeable black goo thing doesn't work for me because that's another thing that's like, oh, well, this is going to help. Even if not to say it's going to help us, even to say it's going to help the planet. I'm really not. I'm waiting on something to actually do something before I say, oh, look what it's doing for, blank. Because being loosed sucks. And there's really not a whole lot that can be done. It's just good to maybe know about, I guess, in a way. But I mean, essentially my point was, if it can build insect fruiting bodies within a human body, if it just kept recycling and making more connections, like building more of a body, then essentially you could make tangible ships. You could make beings that haven't been seen before. But my question is, like, can they? Well, yeah, they can. They could also touch stuff, so they could pick stuff up, throw stuff, cut stuff. And I haven't really seen anybody discuss that as a potential. Like, oh, well, they'll use these to build these much bigger things and use those for the potential event or events to come. We'll see, though, I guess, right? There's not really a way to prove that or to know for sure. What will be done with it is definitely known that it's a thing. Or not even that. It's not definitely known. There's just articles and a couple videos showing it, but I think it is just off of personal experience. Because I'll concede that there's a lot of things where it's like, I think you're just saying that to make me think that you have this, or to make me think that you're doing this, to give yourself more credibility and capability than you actually have. I don't think this is that, though. I think this is a real one, and it sucks. Man, I've had a day and am drained. So I think I'm going to revisit this when I'm more with it and not as all over the place. I think I touched on a lot, though. Like, at the very least, look into smart dust, because we're not far off from that, and they're talking about it. They're talking about using it. So if anybody finds anything that helps to get rid of it, or to keep it off you, or get it out of you, or whatever, definitely hit me up, bro. You know what I mean? Because it sucks. Okay, bye.